Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me as we are going to dive into the major astrology of March 2026. Yes, the third month of the year is upon us, and it has some very distinct themes as we move through Pisces season, Mercury retrograde, eclipse energies, and Jupiter stationing direct, then crossing the threshold into Aries season on March 20th, which is going to be a more inspired motivational energy that signals new chapters are now here and the beginnings you've been planning for have arrived. I'll be going through the highlights of the month in today's show. Then in every Wednesday podcast is where I discuss the weekly energies of the month. So this will just cover what you can expect and work with consciously in March, as well as how to plan for the new beginnings that are being ushered in March and April. Now, before I got started recording this podcast, I was sitting in my soft, receptive place to hear anything important that I need to include in today's show. And one thing that was coming through quite beautifully was butterfly medicine, especially as it relates to soul transformation and the sacred process of becoming yet again, evolving into a new understanding of self and evolving into a new place of self-identity in your life and on your journey. Now, butterflies are one of the most commonly used spirit guides and animals in the world of personal transformation for obvious reasons. But what I was feeling about this particular message of butterfly medicine is how there can be a new lightness in self that sets you free, a new sense of non-attachment to who you were versus the new parts of yourself that are coming forward. There can be a recognition of your own transformation and metamorphosis at a whole new level. And in March, especially the last 10 days or so of the month, you might find that it's easier to fly towards the dreams, visions, and potentials that you've been sitting with and integrating. In some indigenous traditions, butterflies are known for carrying messages between realms. They flutter back and forth between the physical world, moving behind the veil to access what is unseen and then bring it forth into your present reality. Butterfly energy can assist with your own transformation as you trust what those messages are for you. Interestingly enough, in Greek, the word psyche means both butterfly and soul. The word psyche refers to the immortal energy of the soul and your essence of life. And the butterfly is the energy that can access those areas of your energy field and bring it back into your conscious existence. And so all of this felt highly relevant for the month of March as we move through a very powerful Pisces season with the Sun, Mercury retrograde, Venus, Mars, and the North Node all in Pisces. The personal planets are in Pisces. There are no longer any outer planets in Pisces. So this signifies that we are now cleaning up and cleaning out everything that has come up over the past number of years, especially going back to 2011 when Neptune first entered Pisces. Now at a more personal internal level, we are doing some soul purification and soul release in order to be complete with Piscean themes that have traveled with us for years. And this is going to be an energy that you might feel comes in and out of your awareness quite strongly. Pisces energy is inconsistent. You could feel scattered and unable to focus, and perhaps that's because more of your energy is in the higher realms or behind the veil, supporting you in these soul level releases. And that's why March could also be a time when you feel surprised by your own overwhelm, exhaustion, depletion, and need for rest, because more of your energy is actually residing in your soul frequencies, supporting you in what you're meant to move away from and phase out if your free will aligns with it, if your sovereign self agrees that you are ready for these completions and for this transition to occur. Now, keep in mind, also with strong Pisces energy, you can stay hooked into a karmic loop. If you're not closing out old patterns, emotions, cycles, and levels of unconsciousness that you've been in, then you could be resubscribing, if you will, to a karmic cycle that keeps you in that energy field. This can often happen when there is a need for control, power, and endings on one's own terms, meaning you're trying to micromanage something. You want it to stay a certain way, or you want it to end in a way that is advantageous to you or supports your ego or looks a certain way. This is where the energies continue to circulate and where people actually pick up more karma. We talk a lot about closing out karma, healing, and spiritual lessons, but people who do not let go and release continue to accumulate those energies. They stay in those cycles. They create more karma that can last for lifetimes. So this is also something that's quite prominent here during this particular Pisces season, is that the inability to let go can keep you spinning on that karmic wheel and to accumulate energies that you then have to continually experience for years, if not lifetimes to come. So the intentionality here is key, as well as understanding that this is a prominent cycle of closures and endings. And it's also reinforced by Jupiter stationing direct in Cancer at 15 degrees on March 10th. And that's because Jupiter has an energetic connection in Cancer to what was, where you came from, the energies that shaped and formed you emotionally, your first attachment style, which is actually related, if we're looking at this at a primal basis, to your first experience of nursing with your mother. Because after you were born, your instinct is to still attach to her, to feed from her out of survival, and it unconsciously left an imprint on how you felt safe, connected, and attached in the world. So yes, we could go back to memories you probably don't remember, your first time nursing and connecting with your mother or not, and how that left a deep imprint. Was she available, accommodating, and accessible when you needed food, when you needed breast milk? This is also why your moon sign is so important in your astrology chart. Not only your moon sign by house and sign, but aspects to your moon, which contribute to the experience of your emotional well-being. And I explain this even more in my book, Awakening Astrology, which goes through all 5 of your personal planets, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars. And in the chapter on the moon sign, I specifically discuss your attachment style energy and what happened at the moment of your birth that was influential to your sense of safety as you took a body and separated from the womb and from the safety of the mother. So if you want to dive into that even more, there's more in Awakening Astrology. I often forget to mention my books. I have 12 books, 2 of which are astrology books. But essentially, this is a strong theme right now. And Jupiter stationing direct in Cancer at 15 degrees is bringing your attention to truths you have buried, emotional understandings that you're now ready to trust and feel into, and to understand more about what has created your emotional world. I'm going to do a separate podcast on this topic, but this adds to the emotional energy of March, as well as the closures and completions that are coming about during Pisces season. In March, we have 2 planets that start the month retrograde. That's Jupiter and Mercury. And then each one stations direct this month. So that's also important to note, because after Mercury stations direct, all planets will be direct until May 6th. So the butterfly medicine of this month could feel like it's taking you back before it takes you forward. It's taking you into previous timelines that are phasing out and completing at a much deeper soul level. It also feels more personal, that you're ending things here that maybe you didn't think you would step away from, that you're just realizing, I don't have energy for this. And maybe you have time for it, but you don't have energy for it. Maybe you realize, I could do this, but I don't want to do this. And that is one of the key things to assess this month. Do you want to do that thing? Do you truly desire it to be on your schedule or in your world? Because the energy signature here is asking you to be very clear around what supports your energy and what doesn't, what raises your emotional satisfaction, what brings in more joy, happiness, harmony, and peace, and what doesn't. And that could be part of what the Mercury retrograde energies are bringing your attention back to in March. Now, of course, I need to note that the month starts with a Virgo eclipse, and that's happening on March 3rd. March 3rd at 13 degrees of Virgo in your chart. And this moon in Virgo is opposing the strong lineup of planets in Pisces, as well as Neptune and Saturn newly in Aries. So the Virgo energies are asking you to take a self-assessment of what no longer serves you, of what is no longer useful or satisfying, of what is draining your energy. But with Virgo, we are looking at things through a practical and realistic lens. We are understanding if this is bringing about results, if it's something you want to do, or if you're in a pattern of unconscious servitude and obligation. Because you could have some strong messages coming through from your intuition saying, I don't want to do this because I don't feel valued. I don't feel respected. I don't feel or sense that I'm contributing in the ways I want to. The Virgo energies want to bring your gifts and abilities into the bigger picture of something. You want to offer your energy, your smarts, your skill set in a way that is useful and beneficial. But with this eclipse, the universe is highlighting that we are meant to move away from what is no longer coming from a pure place of service and contribution. The Virgo Lunar Eclipse is conjunct the South Node in Virgo, which is at 8 degrees, signifying that the endings are right on time. In fact, there are things you're meant to close out and move away from. And as soon as I tap into this energy, I see it go into other timelines in other lifetimes and cultures where you had to stay with something out of survival. You had to keep baking the bread. You had to keep taking care of the farm and all the animals. You had to keep working. You had to keep working because working was directly tied to survival. And how I'm seeing this play out now is that, yes, you need a paycheck. Yes, you need income. And there's things that you have to do to sustain the life you have. But I'm feeling it as a mind shift, as a consciousness shift around the work you quote unquote have to do versus what you now get to choose to do. And this is a very big eclipse for those of you who have Uranus and Pluto in Virgo. And many of you, in fact, also have your Mars here in Virgo. And if you were born in the mid 1960s, even later in the 1960s, you would have the outer planets in Virgo, and also potentially Saturn and Chiron in Pisces. I'm just speaking in general terms. I know that's not true for all of you, but it's important enough for many of you that I need to mention this. But this is an eclipse point that we've experienced before at 13 degrees of Virgo. So the last time we had eclipses here were in March 2007, March 1998, and March 1980. And so these can be important reference points to look back on what changed for you dramatically and powerfully with an eclipse conjunct your Pluto and or Uranus that would have changed your life and set you off into a new direction. Because an eclipse to Pluto and or Uranus is going to do so. And that's the cycle you're in now, where you're realizing perhaps you're done with a certain industry, profession, or career. You're done using your skills in a certain way, and it's time to move on. There's an understanding that this is setting you free from your own unconscious patterns of servitude, excellence, perfectionism, guilt, survival, and or need to be valued and useful. Just some general themes here, but this is going to be a big eclipse for a whole generation of people who are going to have very clear life themes after this eclipse unfolds. And I'm feeling like one of the best ways to understand it, if it resonates with you, is to see that it doesn't only pertain to this lifetime. Again, it goes back into other timelines, other lifetimes that are running concurrently now, where you're actually being set free from anything that's kept you small, where you thought you had to ask permission, where you thought you had to do something only for others. And as a result, you gave up your sovereignty. This is where those chains and shackles are being released. You are being broken free from any of those parts of yourself or from your soul's experience of those energies. And with the opposition to planets in Pisces, you could be moving through grief, depression, discouragement, a lot of emotions. And one of the main things I'm feeling is that you could be questioning, where do I go next? What do I do next? If this is over, if this area of my life that perhaps you've invested decades in, if this is complete and phasing out, whether by your own choice or by the decisions and choices of others, please understand that this is connected to your own evolution. And this is now an opportunity where you get to powerfully choose what is calling to you next, what you want to do next. And for those of you who have that strong Pisces Virgo axis in your chart, you are giving yourself permission to own your journey, your gifts, your abilities, and to decide what beautiful next creation you're going to invest in because you are worth it. So there's a reclaiming of sovereignty here for everyone, but I feel this so powerfully for anyone who has strong Virgo and or Pisces placements, because it's activating much deeper levels that have been hidden in the soul's path or in the soul's imprint. And with this energy of March, you might be surprised at how quickly you move through an ending and you're ushered into a new start by April. And I say this in a practical way because if your job is ending, if you have been fired or you're being phased out, especially with the new technologies coming in, a lot of companies and businesses are reducing their staff, which is Virgo. Virgo is staff. It's admin, support services, those who have a specialty role. Those positions are being phased out more rapidly, but that's also because there's a new start coming in just as quickly, and it's asking you to have a beginner's mind. And that's part of where we're going here in March, is that as we move through Pisces season, you could have a lot of open-ended questions. And the seeker in you is arising to figure out, where do I go next? What do I want? I don't know what I want because no one ever asked me, what do I want? I just had to do things. I just had to take care of this. I was just expected to show up here. Now the universe is returning you to your core self and saying, what do you want? And if you don't know, then you are opening up to a beautiful adventure and experience of figuring that out. And so as we move towards the end of Pisces season and get to the Aries Equinox on March 20th, which is exact at 10:45 a.m. Eastern Time, this is also when Mercury stations direct at 8 degrees of Pisces conjunct the North Node. And this is where the downloads and understandings of what you've been feeling and sensing are going to be even stronger. Now, Mercury is actually going to be conjunct that north node for about a week, March 17th to March 24th, but it's the station direct at the equinox that allows you to break through the fog and see a new vista on the horizon. And this is the entry point into Aries season, the beginning of the full astrological wheel. In fact, March 20th is known as International Astrology Day, and it's going to initiate powerful new cycles that have previously been unclear, unknown, and unavailable to you. But the start of Aries season is a big deal this year because we're also going to have all planets direct until May 6th. May 6th is when Pluto will station retrograde. And then we're going to have the Sun enter Aries, make a conjunction to Neptune on March 22nd, then a conjunction to Saturn in Aries on March 25th, and also experiences a sextile to Pluto in Aquarius on March 25th. The first week of Aries season has inspired powerful, courageous new starts. There are beginning points here that are coming together and will continue to unfold in April as all the personal planets then move into Aries. And we have a full lineup of planets in Aries in April. I believe at any one time there are 8 planets in Aries in April, a very rare stellium of energies signaling it's time to begin. So you are essentially preparing for some powerful new starts that are timed for Aries season. But March is actually preparing you and allowing you to release what has been and what was, if you choose with your free will to align with the new potentials of Aries season. Now, one thing about the month of March is that there's not a lot of earth energy. The earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. Of course, we're going to have the moon moving through the signs, and we have Uranus now direct at 27 degrees of Taurus. But there is less groundedness here. There is less of that earth sign influence that we're going to need to consciously seek out, as well as connect to the steadiness of the earth signs more willingly. This means that you might not be as practical or realistic as is required. You might also have to stay aware of how you're managing your time, your boundaries, and your resources. Because with the strong water signs and fire signs of the month, we can be really in our feelings and emotions, idealizing outcomes, hoping for the best, wishing for the most positive thing to unfold. But it's the earth signs that keep us practical and aware of how things actually happen and unfold on our planet. So keep in mind that you might have to consciously connect with earth sign energy throughout the month. So as the month of March comes to a close, we're going to have one of the best aspects of March and April happening. And that is Saturn in Aries sextiling Pluto in Aquarius at 5 degrees. It is exact on March 28th, but the energy starts March 26th and 27th and lasts until about April 5th. Saturn in Aries is bringing in a stabilizing force of self to help you anchor in the truth of who you are now, as it sextiles Pluto in Aquarius, which is powerfully infusing your sovereignty, authenticity, and unique gifts in this lifetime. Together, the sextile between Saturn and Pluto is strengthening self-empowerment, individuality, sovereignty, personal leadership, and an ownership on your path and the energies you're creating that support your dreams. This is the power of a new vision coming to life in a practical, realistic way. This is where you're looking at your commitments to your unique path and to yourself, and how to live from a place that honors exactly who you came to be here in this lifetime. This directly relates to that butterfly medicine that I was feeling for this month, where you could feel that you are blossoming and becoming more of your true self. Both Aries and Aquarius energies are independent, spicy, adventurous, motivated, and freedom-loving. When planets are in a sextile, it means that they are in compatible signs, signs that can be best friends, signs that support each other, that bring harmony and strength to the other. So as March closes out, there's a renewal here that's beautifully supported by your soul, encouraging you to move ahead into new chapters. New life developments are occurring as March ends. There is more here that could be very evident to you that now is the time for me to do this or to go this way. There is more support now that has finally aligned. And with that Pluto energy, you're going to feel it at a deep core level. Whereas Saturn is about your feet on the ground, taking necessary steps in that power, in that core sense of self that aligns you with what you need and where you need to go. This is active energy. This is where it's necessary to make moves and advance in ways that maybe you've only thought about or dreamed of. Now it's real. Now you're creating in the physical at a whole new level. And this can be when invitations, resources, opportunities arrive. This is when things show up out of the blue and it just clicks. It just matches up effortlessly. This is when we're making powerful new choices that recognize how far you've come as well as what you're complete with. And you could feel at the end of March that you've realized, I'm not going back to that. I'm not doing that ever again. I have evolved beyond certain experiences, situations, patterns, and relationships. And now I am owning as a powerful soul all areas of my life, because you alone are responsible for all areas of your life. We know that at a soul level. But when we take a human body and we enter into this reality, we have very different emotional imprints and experiences of what we've moved through. I feel that there's going to be such a powerful rebirth in so many people, the end of March going into April, that you are going to feel a lightness in your being. You're going to feel more colorful, more alive. You're going to sense that everything you've been through has absolutely been worth it, because it's only made you better, stronger, more empowered, and more self-loving. This is the energy of true self-acceptance, how you're here to be different, how you're here to be who you are and to not apologize, to not hold back, to not think you have to fit in, to not try to belong. Belonging is boring. Humanity has subscribed to that out of a need for safety, for centuries. This is where the trajectory shifts. This is where the world starts to change. And we know that because of the Neptune-Saturn conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries, the world point degree that signifies we are opening up to a whole new evolutionary process, moving forward on these brand new trajectories that are higher than what we have known or seen before, because we are higher in our frequencies, in our consciousness, and in our awareness. And so for those who are doing that type of intentional work, you are going to feel a liftoff the end of March into April. You are going to feel that you're really living on a whole new timeline. And now at this level, there are all new potentials and possibilities that will open up to you. And in fact, that's when you could feel that you have become this butterfly that moves between realms more gracefully, that flies more effortlessly, and that you're traveling with more lightness because you have removed and dissolved the karma, patterns, healing themes, and dense energies that you've been in maybe for your whole life, if not lifetimes. It is that significant considering all the energies in play at this time. So there's March for you. That is my read on the month. As I said, I will be going through these energies more specifically on each podcast episode, especially the Wednesday shows where we discuss the weekly energies. I also hope this assists you in understanding the eclipse season energies that you may be experiencing. There are parts of your life and parts of yourself that are meant to be eclipsed, that are meant to be completed and removed in order for you to see the next chapter and the bigger picture of your life. Mercury retrograde until March 20th is also allowing the mind to slow down, to accept and surrender what you don't have control over, what you can't manage, and what isn't even yours to hold anymore. There could be a feeling this month that you're losing weight, whether that is physical pounds or simply energy pounds. There could be a sense that you're not holding and carrying as much as you used to. And that also feels like part of the infusion at a soul level of what you are now possessing in your light body. The light body is where we hold the higher frequencies and more lightness that allows us to move through the physical world in a whole new way. So this could be yet another way to look at how your transformation is working and paying off this month because of the lightness you feel in your mind, body, and spirit. If you want to learn more about your 5 personal planets, please check out my book, Awakening Astrology, where I discuss more of the significance of your sun sign, moon sign, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. I do a deep dive into each one, including how your Venus sign is connected to your divine feminine energies, just as your Mars is connected to your divine masculine. We look at your sun sign in a whole new way of understanding your blind spot energy, your ongoing development energy, and the balancing energy of your sun sign. This book, Awakening Astrology, is available as a paperback, ebook, and audiobook, and it's meant to be one you continually reference in terms of understanding more of the layers in yourself and in your chart. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate your time, energy, and presence. I'll be back for a new episode every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So have a beautiful start to the month of March. Wishing you a beautiful, trusting Mercury retrograde, and I'll see you back here soon as we continue discussing the astrology of these times. Take good care.